other than seeing them at meetings and conventions and stuff. But all I can say is this, and we poured into them with everything we had, but we came home, they gave us more than we gave them. We gained more by being there with them than they gained by whatever it was we said to them, to help train them and stuff. And it was a really, really good reminder. And April and I are going to talk a little bit tonight about, after we just go through a couple announcements, about the value of the way they started doing this business 15 years ago and still do this business today, and the belief that they have in the product and the miracles that they've seen happen with the product that gives them the faith that they have in the product. It just keeps feeding back and forth. We want to share some of that with you because, April and I, we've been trying to be very, I guess, on purpose with doing more things in person. We think it's a very big missing ingredient, not just in our industry, not just in our company, but in all the ways that people are doing business today in this world. We just think there's not enough personal contact, ever since COVID. And so we're going to talk a little bit because we had the opportunity to experience, being around those folks, about, I guess, probably 90 or 100 of them over a 3-day span. And like I said, they did more for us than we ever could, for them. So let me just go through a couple announcements, and then we want to share some of that with you. And we got something cool we want to show you. Um, we're gonna go over this booklet, and it's 40 pages. It's an entire product catalog, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But the Amish, most do not use any technology. If they have a phone, it's a flip phone. They don't text, it's just for phone calls. And most of them still have a rotary phone if they're using a phone. It's one of these, but they, well, let me go through the announcements, and then we'll go through that. So let me just share my screen. April, just keep letting people in, okay?
Yep.
Okay, so please just take some notes, jot this down. Most of it I'll just go over in a second, more detail, but now, as always, Monday is Power Hour at 4 p.m. Eastern. So, it's just a great opportunity to get some training, but also be productive in your reach outs and building your business. But one of the things I want to share with Terrence Moorhead is officially in the building, CEO. He is there. We've got a lot of insight, nothing that I'm going to put on tape or on recording, but we had the opportunity to spend, the weekend with Skylar Fobbs, besides Brian and Holly, Highfield. It's their group there in Ohio, the Amish folks. But the stuff that we're hearing about Terrence, and how he works and what he's done and what he can do and how excited he is to be um, the man in charge now at LifeVantage. We heard some things that'll never be repeated, but blew us away because of how excited and how much he wanted this job, and knowing he would need to sit on the sidelines for over a year if he decided to take this job. It was amazing. But anyway, he is officially in the building, in the house. He's the CEO now, and he's meeting with each department on different days, and just going over things from top to bottom, and just looking for all the different ways that whatever can be improved. Okay, that's it. And then obviously, besides things being improved, what he can bring to the table in regards to speeding up growth for everybody, But we had, and we'll talk more about this, we had a heck of a weekend in the Amish country, and it was a treat. Like I said, we'd never done it before, and I have seen more horse and buggies than I've ever seen in 10 lifetimes. So, but anyway, our product and opportunity overview this month is a week from Tuesday. That's right, April, right? Today's 16, 17. No, Monday. Is it
Monday.
Monday?
Yeah. Monday, I
Okay,
think
a
you
week
said.
from
Yeah.
tomorrow. It's a week from Monday. So we will talk about that next Sunday, but keep that in mind. It's just 8 days away. And after you hear some of the stuff that we're going to share tonight, I think that'll make you very excited too. But oh, I didn't mean to do that. So we also heard something else, and we had only gotten a little bit of the truth, not the truth, but the real story when it came to global convention. And I really hope that, not only all of you are going to be there, but you really stress and put whatever pressure, encouragement, whatever it is you got to do to have your team there because it's going to be 5 or 6 years before the big venue like the Salt Palace, which where we're going to be, is going to be available again because not only are the big events, the Olympics and some of the international sports things got everything booked, but they're refurbishing it. It's being redone and it's going to be 5 or 6 years. So, this is going to be the last time in Utah for a long time. And you definitely want to take advantage of being there. Um, I guess I can say this, April, because we did agree to do it. We were also asked to speak on main stage at Global. So we accepted. The last time they asked, we did not accept. So they were happy that we did accept. So anyway, we will have a small part on the main stage at Global. But let me just go through a couple things here. Again, we are, what are we, 6 weeks into the Cancun trip. We found out that there were a number of people, at least three, that made it in 1 month, got to 75 points and made the trip in 1 month. So it can be done in a month. It could be done in 6 weeks. It could be done but people are taking advantage of all three ways to get the points, the enrolling, the retaining, and the advancing. Okay. So we have to the end of September and anything that we could do to help you, get on there, speed things up, or even strategize on how to do it, just reach out and let us know. All right, I mentioned Power Hour already. So these are the invites. They're where we post everything. So you can go to, the regular places to get the invites for August 24th. And as I said, it's a Monday this time. We had been doing Tuesdays, but it's a week from tomorrow night. We will be doing that. Okay, so we want to share a little bit about what April and I don't want to say learned, but I guess I guess I should say learned, an awareness that was awakened within us by spending Thursday, Friday, Saturday, um, in the Amish country with Skylar and Brian and Holly Highfield and the entire well, not the entire Amish group, but we had a chance to spend time with the leaders. We know the folks that we met, Fannie Mae and Ben, they're responsible for over 300,000. It was 300,000, right? That they said
Yeah.
over 300,000 a month that they do in business. And what really got my attention was they were completely unaffected by COVID. They they almost, and they didn't quite say this, and we kind of joked a little bit with them, but it was like they just didn't do COVID. Like they just didn't do it. And they don't generally use traditional doctors, and they don't use any prescription drugs unless it's, an absolute catastrophe. And they do things naturally. And it was just a fantastic experience. So we definitely want to share a little bit about what went on. So this is just a few pictures of. I mean, it started fast. We got there. Well, we had done a meeting last Wednesday night at Clarissa's house. Clarissa got a bunch of her friends over, and April did. I drove April there. I didn't participate. This was an all ladies thing, but they did a sip and glow at Clarissa's house. And we got home about, I don't know, maybe 10 at night, and we had to get up at 3 in the morning because our flight was leaving at 6 to go to Ohio. And we got there, and it was nonstop from the time we got there. We went in early so we could experience the area a little bit and see things and shop in some of the stores and things like that. But then lunch came, and it was here we go, from there, and it was just nonstop. Truly some of the nicest people that we have ever met in our lives, some of the most appreciative people. But we heard, and let me go to the next slide. Actually, let me go over this, and then we'll go into the training part of things. So one of the things, because they don't use, the website, they don't do social media, they don't text, they just do not use technology. They use a lot of paper, and they still do paper applications sometimes, but now they can have somebody call it in, so they can just do it by phone now. And the ones that use phones do that. But Brian and Holly put together a really nice product catalog with every product and every bundle and the pricing and description, everything in it. It's 40 pages. We have a lot of products in this. So it's 40 pages. It is 5.5 by 8.5 when it's closed. And it's 5.5 by 17 when it's open, because it opens like long ways. The way you see, if you look at the top two on in the middle and on the right, those two pictures, that's like one page opened up. So it's 5.5 by 17 when it's open, but when it's closed, it's a 40-page, um, beautiful catalog that would be so helpful. And we didn't know they had catalogs or anything. We saw them on the table there, and when we were there, and everybody and all the Amish folks were buying them. And we said, can we buy some? And then I asked, I said, could we buy some for our team if they want them? And April and I looked at this and said, wow, this is great for one-on-ones. We're thinking of Jackie's group at church, how beneficial this would be to have people when you're face to face at church, how nice it would be for doctors or salons, something you could give to a customer that's a good customer. I mean, they're only $2, they're 10 for $25 plus shipping. So they're only $2.50 each. It's not like it's a $10 catalog, although I think it's worth $10. But we loved it. We bought it, and we're going to use them. We're gonna look for different places. We have some things that we have to send out tomorrow, and we're going to use them. But what I love is it is absolutely up to date with every product, and beautifully done, beautifully printed, big print, big pictures, easy to read. April, what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so when I saw it, I thought, particularly for my retail customers and consultants, if I want to expand on their vision, let's say that they're just on the Tri-Synergizer and I want to try to get them on something else. um, I can just circle that page, open that page, bend it open and put a little note or whatever, just make it more visual than me just talking. So they can see all the ingredients. And at the same time, it allows them to see all the other products. So, one of the things that has probably just been costly is if I print out a page from the computer, from the website. By the time I go through the ink and the color and all, this is much more practical, and then they can see so much more too. So I'm just going to use it to expand vision primarily with people that maybe I have on some products, but I want to add more products to them. Consultants, they come in on a package, but then they should start to use some of the other products. This will be a way to share more different products with them and stuff. Because, one of the things is our people are all over, and the value of, all of us being in person is so great. And we really need to do something about that. The Zooms are great. And you can see, there's never a time, and how, consistent Bobby and I are with our
I
business.
just put some bullet points up there of things you and I were talking about. It's on the screen now. Okay.
Okay. How consistent we are with our business, and you guys that are on here are the consistent ones. And I know there's a lot, Kenneth's traveling, Dee's traveling, a lot of people are traveling at this point. Different things are going on. Jay is traveling. There's so many traveling, but you know what? This is a business. What you put into it, you get out of it. And so, when I saw the sacrifice that these people made to make sure that they get to events, do you know they take a train to Utah? A train. When was the last time you even heard somebody mention something about a train? I'm going to look up the routes. I didn't even know that was an option for anybody. I don't know what the cost is. But their dedication to getting to these events is first class. And they put it like this, if you don't sacrifice to get to the event, whatever event is, your business is sacrificing. Because this business, you can't feel, see, and touch other than the people that are involved. It's those testimonies. And I tell you, I was so blown away by the testimonies that we heard. I don't know how many of you have heard of Joel's testimony. Bobby and I had the privilege of meeting him at Pro 5 many years ago, but he was literally on his deathbed. They were planning his funeral. And this was the other part that was just blew me away. And not that his dad is a bad thing, but his dad is like a naturopath, so very well versed in.
That's a doctor, a naturopath doctor.
Yeah. So, he's into alternative medicine, seriously into it. And he couldn't help his own son. He didn't know what to do. I'm sure he was trying everything, using the best of his knowledge that he could. But, Protandim in this product line saved his life. Saved his life. There was another lady, she had Lyme disease. They were taking her into Mexico and trying to do everything they could. And they just couldn't get a grip on it. And there was testimony after testimony on person who was sick, really sick, and not just like an achy shoulder or something, had some really serious things going on, and they were literally cured by this stuff. And, some of them, it didn't happen overnight, but they made sure they stayed on it for a period of time, because they get the belief of hearing other people's stories in the room. And so that's why I said this, getting to be in person, getting to these meetings. And I know I'm speaking to the wrong people here, but anytime you think about skipping in, one of the stories Bobby and I told at the end of the meeting was a story. Some of you I doubt anybody even on here remembers the guy, but was a story where we drove through a snowstorm about 5 hours down to Maryland to do a meeting. And the doctor that we were doing the meeting for said, don't come. It's going to be all snowed out. I'll go to the hotel. If anybody shows, I'll handle it. But you guys just stay back. No worries. I'm pretty sure nobody's going to show anyway. We were like, no, we're coming. We said we'd do the meeting. We're going to do the meeting. So it took a little longer. We left a little earlier. We got down there. The only person that showed for that meeting was a guy who was a patient of this doctor who had terrible diabetes, grossly overweight, had been using the weight loss product we had back then. And the doctor promised him a box, and those of you that know the box, a box of this stuff if he comes to the meeting because of his testimony. he'd probably already lost about 65, 70 pounds at that point, but he easily had another 100, had a lot of weight to lose. So was getting good results, just wanted his testimony, was going to give him a free box of the product, a month of the product. Well, it turned out this guy, he's an older guy, was getting such great results on the product. He told his dad, well, it
No,
happened
his
to
son.
be,
He told his
I mean, his
son.
son. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, his son. He told his son, who happened to be an OBGYN. Okay, he was an OBGYN. In fact, in the area we were just in Akron, Ohio. And his son joined the business. And it was a huge line for us at that point because his son happened to be going through the airport to play golf and the doctor up there, they met and stuff. But the point is, we could have easily not gone to that meeting. We could have said, no, the snow is an excuse. We're not going to make the trip. We're not going to do what we need to do. But because we're always consistent with that, that's when things happen. So sometimes we have to put our business first and we have to make sacrifices because if we don't, our business sacrifice. So the next time you get an inkling that you don't want to go out and meet somebody, you don't want to go out and talk to somebody, you don't want to work your business, think about the sacrifice that your business is taking because you're not introducing new people. We have something just so, so special. And so that's why we're kind of thankful. I mean, it was a tiring time between doing the other meetings and just getting to go and the prep work for stuff and the trainings and everything. But what we get back from these meetings, and I would love, I quickly Googled at one point, I would love for a lot of us to go. I'm kicking myself that I didn't make certain people go, like put the hard press on because it was really just an amazing time. And I just Googled, they have Airbnbs there that are very inexpensive. We can do larger groups and stuff. So just think about every time those of you that were with us in Airbnbs, how much more fun that was. The fun we have, the memories from that and stuff. And so that's why this in-person stuff is so important because it gives you the fuel when things are harder. But when we sit behind a Zoom, again, like our business, we lose that feel, see, and touch. It's not exactly the same as just I can come up to you and give you a hug. And that was another thing. We didn't know whether we were supposed to give hugs, shake hands, or do. We learned a lot about that stuff. But definitely was a lot of fun. The testimonies were great. Just gave us a lot more belief in the products for sure. They're very heavy on the products. And so Bobby and I talk, and I think evens that out because we tend to be heavier on the opportunity. And that was probably something that they needed. But anyway, they have a huge desire to help people. And that's really the basis of where we're all coming from, any way that we can help people. One of the things that I've noticed over the last week with people, when you do your reach outs, one, if you're not hearing back from somebody, make sure you're warming it up. So like if I let you all know the term ghosted. So if I get ghosted and somebody doesn't get back to me, could be something's going on in their life, and that is proven time and time again that something is going on. But if you feel like somebody's not getting back to you, take it back to a personal level. I think sometimes we jump too much into business and, what's going to go on with business and what product they should buy. And we're just forcing business where we didn't take the relationship first. So if you find that, you're not getting communication back, bring it back to whatever you know about them as a person and create more of a relationship because this is a relationship business. And there's so much trust that needs to go on when somebody gets involved. As simple as, are you going to be there to work with them? What package should they start? How do they sign up? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on that we kind of take for granted. So again, I would just say next time, make sure that you warm up your conversations always in the beginning. It doesn't have to be lengthy, but, stay on top of what's going on in their life and stuff. And definitely, if you're not getting a reply, make sure that you are, just then asking them, hey, how's it going with your daughter or your son's wedding or whatever's going on, bring it back to a more personal, and then you go ahead and reapproach. So.
The I'd like everyone just giving some thought. And in this book, it reminded me of how easy things could be if we just step away from technology a little bit and get back into the people business. And those of you, I know, Ali, Angie, Lynn, Noel, all of you, this was always and should always be about people. And and we heard from Ralph and Kathy from the time any of us met them, we're in the people business, not the product business. But of course, the product's got to do what they're supposed to do. I mean, the compensation plan's got to do what it's supposed to do, but we're in the people business. And I think that was the biggest reminder for me this weekend is being around the 90, 100 people that we were around, that they are always in the people business. They serve. Okay, that's what they do. They serve. And we're a bit spoiled, all of us, because we have access and willingness to use so much when it comes to technology and tools. But when you listen to these folks talk, Protandem NRF2 is the greatest miracle that's ever come into their lives after God. I mean, it is unbelievable. And they will give the product to someone that can't afford it. They care so much about the results that people are getting and the people that they care about, that they just find a way to get that person, especially if they're sick or a loved one, that they know is sick. And it reminded me, this company got really, really big with one product. It was Protandem, and then the skincare that went with the Protandem. I forgot what it was called, but the original skincare cream, the NRF2 cream. And we got to like $170 million in business with two products. And we're always asking and looking and talking about what's the next product. And we sometimes lose sight of the miracle of what Protandem and NRF2, NRF1, NAD are. And there are people out there, and there are people that could start companies with any one of our products, never mind the 30 or so products that we have. There's companies out there that just sell NAD. There's companies out there that are in the mitochondria business. There's obviously companies in the weight loss business. There's companies in the energy drink business. There's companies in the gut health business. The other thing we heard, and the gut health product is not even a year now, it's probably about 9 months or so. We heard miracles with that from the Amish folks. They just and they're so excuse me, they're so humble and so honest. One of them was talking about the product and said, it took 3 or 4 months for it to do what it needed to do. And he was so frustrated because it was making him sick. He was having all kinds of side effects. And his wife was on the flip side of it. From the very first week, it was like a miracle on her. It just worked immediately. And she was like a brand new person. And obviously, his stomach and digestive system needed some work, and the product was working on it. And he realized that 3 or 4 months down the road after he started using it, what a different person he was. But, and they said the same thing. It was interesting listening to them talk about the GLP-1, the mind body. And, we all live in a society of immediate gratification, and they understand that sometimes the GLP-1 hormone needs to be worked on before it'll do its job. It needs to be repaired. It needs to be fixed. It was really interesting, listening to them. But the one thing I'd like you all to consider, and think it would be so helpful for your business, is make it mandatory that you get to a live event every month. I don't care if it's a local meeting. I don't care if you do it, the local meeting, but you got to get around other people in the business and share it face to face. Okay. You got to
So,
do.
so Bobby, just I just want to remind you all. I know Jackie's not on here. I think Caroline, Gigi's on here. One of the things that Jackie organizes here locally is just a restaurant lunch. Everybody pays their own lunch. It's usually done on a Sunday afternoon after we all have church. So, but it's very interesting every time we do it. Jackie and I don't say very much, and I know Gigi doesn't say a whole lot. It's very interesting. People sell the new people who have no idea what we're doing on the products. And Jackie and I, in particular, just kind of sit back and watch the interactions as these people who are using the product are sharing the product. Even I myself had a guy call this morning. He originally signed up as a customer, I think back in February, used it for 3 or 4 months, got great results. He has arthritis, particularly in his hands. I forget what he does for a living, but then because he's going through a divorce, he felt he couldn't afford to use the Protandim. So he stopped for a few months. And then this morning he called right away. He said, I really need that stuff right away. I need it on an auto ship. I need it in a 3-month package. It was amazing how he was. But he too, again, got such benefits from the product. We all don't have these illnesses. Bobby and I don't have, knock wood, thank God, we don't have anything, that we could get such a miraculous, discovery from, but a lot of these people do. And it's just reaffirming hearing all these different, testimonies and stuff. But getting back to, if you've got a small group, I don't care if it starts with 2 or 3 of you, go ahead and invite 1 or 2 to lunch. It does a few things. It does the friendshiping thing, but then it also gives you time to talk about the products and just continue to expand on that group. And even if the people are just a customer using the products, invite them. Use that touch feel thing where you can talk to them and they can see results and stuff. That's how you'll grow a group, locally to start with. If you don't feel like inviting to a meeting would be easy. Most people will all like to go out for, happy hour or Sunday lunch or whatever it might be. People are always up for that type of stuff. You'll have an easier time inviting people for that. So just an idea how to get your stuff going locally, but we do need to do stuff in person.
And the one last thing I want to share, and then you guys are welcome to ask any questions, but and we know this because I just mentioned we were all taught to be in the people business, and and the people that know me and April beyond LifeVantage know that the worst thing you could do in this business is sign somebody up and leave them alone. It's the worst thing. They don't know anything, and it's our fault if we leave them alone because they don't know what they're doing. They may think they're independent and could do it on their own, and they're wrong. Okay, they may think they know enough, but they're wrong. And the one thing that we got from the 25 years that we were in our other company is you didn't cut the cord, the umbilical cord, with a new consultant or distributor until they were self-sufficient. Okay, and they knew how to do what needed to be done. And the other thing was you always use third-party validation. And that was the other thing that blew my mind with the Amish folks. They don't, they do three-way calls, they still do faxing. That is a technology they're allowed to use. So they still fax. Okay. But they use three-way calls. And I was listening to Brian and Holly and some of the leaders down there all the time. Sometimes they'll do 8 or 10 a day. Okay, not like a year, but a day. And it doesn't mean that the person that's talking to the person doesn't know the information. It means the program has to be shown that it's duplicatable, it's bigger than just the two of you there talking, and there's support and expertise available, and the process can be duplicated. And if you fly solo, and let's say you're really smart with the product, or you're someone that's been around for 15 years and you think you know everything, and you're talking to a new person. Okay. And they're thinking, well, she knows a whole lot of stuff. Or they look at me and they say, well, he's got 30 years experience. I'm not interested in getting that experience, and I'm not interested in going back to school to learn nutrition. And the reason they think that is because they think they got to be you or know what you know. And if you just go through the duplication process, they realize, wow, that person introduced me to something, showed me something. Another person got on the phone and answered questions, and that was it. And that same stuff is available to me. I don't need to know anything because there's help out there and the system is duplicatable. I got reminded of that big time because all I heard from them was three-way calls, three-way calls, three-way calls. That's all they did. That was their job, was to introduce it and then get that person on the phone with another person. And they love it. I mean, they just, they just do it all the time. So let's make an effort to never leave someone once you sign them up. Okay. Hey, if they're a pompous idiot, I'm not saying I'm not saying you can't give it a shot, but if you have to cut the cord, you got to cut the cord. You should never have to put up with a pompous idiot. But I'm saying, don't you be the pompous one. Okay, if that person is new, there's what's the right word I'm looking for? There's an ignorance there that is innocent, innocent ignorance. They just don't know, and we can't cut them loose until they're properly trained. It's not fair to throw them to the wolves. It's not fair to have them have to answer questions they're not able to answer. When we do know how to answer those questions, every one of you is an expert on the products, and every one of you, if you're not making the money you want to make, you can get someone on the phone that is making the money you want to make. You have access to any tool that you want. We should never abandon a new person, and that doesn't mean they're going to be easy with us. Sometimes they ignore our calls, they ignore our texts. Well, then you need to drive over with a cup of coffee or a bottle of Axio and say, hey, how's it going? I've been trying to reach you. Tell me what's going on. I mean, we got to be humans. We got to get back on the people side of things along with all the fancy technological tools that we have. Okay. I mean, let's face it, we don't have to do the training center meetings and the hotel meetings and all that stuff that we had to do 10, 20, 30 years ago because we use videos now. We have YouTube and Zoom and we use videos. But that doesn't mean the personal contact disappears. And that doesn't mean we cut someone loose that isn't self-sufficient. They got to know what's going on. And so anyway, April and I are going to be working hard on all of these things. And, we wanted to share it with you. It was really a moving experience, being in the Amish country. And our respect and appreciation was always very high with Brian and Holly Highfield. But the way they love on and support that group and the way that group loves and supports them after 15 years, 15 years. I mean, think about it. They didn't do COVID. And I'm not being funny with anyone. I'm not going into doctors and vaccines or any of that. They just didn't do it. I mean, it's like you can fill in the rest of it, okay? They just didn't do it. And a lot of it was because of our product. Did they hear about it? Yeah. Did some of them get it, I guess? I don't know. Maybe some of them did or didn't, but they believe so much in the way they treat their health that, it just like came and went, but it never really came. So, anyway, let's just keep in person in mind. And let's keep, if we put them first, especially a new consultant, well, new customer too, they're equal. Because the other thing that blew my mind was they had everyone stand that was an onyx and emerald and sapphire and diamond. And they didn't have a lot of sapphires and diamonds. And the reason because They have the smoothest transition from customer to consultant that I've ever seen or heard. There's just no reason for the person to continue paying a higher price after a couple months, and they all become consultants, and they don't worry about they're going to lose a little profit on the retail on the customer side. They just get with them and start building a business and more than make up for it. So they look at like that sapphire bonus or diamond bonus is irrelevant if that person gets in as a consultant and starts introducing you to their warm market. So another lesson learned too. So that's why I said April and I came home with more than we gave for sure. April?
Yeah, so just lastly, the other thing they use, and we'll go ahead and pull more of it, they tend to use a lot more of the studies. Like they have the studies. Now, I use the GLP-1 studies, the first and second studies a lot when I'm talking GLP-1, but they use a lot of the Protanum studies.
Yeah.
And so the NAD study. So, Brian was bringing up a lot of this stuff. Just be able to, it's paper with them, they can slide it across and share a study. But I think if we can share studies with people, that's more proof how crazy these products are. And even a person that's, like Bobby and I, not from the medical field, you can generally make out the summary on the product. And, it all says, whatever disease that is. And we're not treating diseases, but whatever disease we're talking about, if we reduce oxidative stress, we reduce that disease. And so, that's in black and white, and that gives a lot of credibility too. I noticed they used a lot of the studies in different areas. Yeah, company studies on PubMed, he used and stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, I
Yeah,
kind of,
but
we used to have that sheet that had like 26 studies all in it and
yeah.
stuff. And even I got away from using it. So we're just not maybe making the use we can with some of these studies.
And just, there obviously that's not the only Amish group that, the Haydens have a group. There's a lot of different people that I didn't know, it's getting close to a 500,000 Amish folks live here in this country now. I did not understand that it was that big. Okay, I didn't think there was that many, and I didn't think it went across, I thought it was just Pennsylvania, Ohio. I didn't realize all the other states that had fairly large Amish communities too, um, but can you imagine? I mean, a $300,000 a month organization, all word of mouth, talking to their friends, relatives, all word of mouth. It's very impressive. So, but anyone got anything new, questions or anything before we go? Everybody good?
I told Debbie we'd send her the link for the booklets.
Yeah,
So
it's and we're not gonna like buy a lot of them. If you want them, let us know. We're gonna put in an order, and that's gonna be that. We're not printing them or anything like that. It's and actually, it was very nice for Brian and Holly to make them available. And I almost didn't want to ask because I said, "Hey, can we buy some of them?" And they said, "Sure," and we did. And then we got home and started thinking about how beneficial they could be. And I asked, would you mind if, we bought some for our team too? And they said they were fine with it. So, but we're not going to stock them or anything. So if you want some, let us know. And, it's paper, so the shipping will probably be $8 or $10. So figure it's probably going to be about 35 for 10 of them, because you're shipping paper's heavy. Um, but anyway, still compared to the other guy with the collagen booklets, those are $10 a piece. So
yeah,
$2 or $3 is a lot better than 10. And this is the whole product line, not just collagen, it's everything. And by the way, the collagen in this is a few pages because there are before and afters, with it. So um it's good. So let us know if that's of interest. But other than that, we'll post this and you know how to reach us, but we are back home. So it's good to see you all. Have a great day. Bye.